Hello, it's Hebby, but it won't be Hebby for long because I see a very angry orangey-yellow cloud approaching rapidly over the horizon, so I might as well spit out the intro as fast as possible, making every character from Wings of Fire the Dragon book series into a plush. Bookies long, very long. Can't do everyone because 400 characters. Comment section votes for characters as many times as they want for me to make into a plushie. Plushie designs based off of official art and opinion. So far in this challenge we've made... Taking too long! The Skywing army is about efficiency, about ruthlessness above all else, only tempered by extreme gratuity to her most wondrous majesty, Queen of the Mountains, Queen Scarlet! No need to yell, General Maelstrom. Of course there is need to yell, whelp. Her benign and magnanimous grace, Queen Scarlet, has sent me to inspect the troops. And I don't like what I see so far. In fact, what I see so far is pathetic, wimpy, distinctly sad grey-coloured, and not at all fast enough with the plushies ordered by Her Royal Highness, the most ferocious, the most orange despite her name, Queen Scarlet. Okay. Now hurry up with your job whilst I corral the whining little lizards together for my inspection. Ow! Well, I guess it's a collab. Many plushie artists have come together and united their passion and creativity to produce the greatest fighting battalion the Skywing army has ever seen. Well, some of them fight and some of them are in a battalion, and this is the sneak peek of things to come. As always with these collabs, the social medias of my fellow artists will be linked in the description, and I highly encourage you to follow them and show them some love and support. Since they submitted their dragons to be shown off in this video, this challenge series wouldn't be the same without them. Though it would be a lot shorter. Especially if people didn't want so many random characters, like literally every unnamed hybrid or 30 dead Icewings in the Diamond Trial. But you can't always get what you wish for as a winner on the list. But you can always get some slave labour going. And now we have a delicious smorgasbord of Skywing plushies coming up, just as the Queen ordered. And I didn't even have to whip them this time. General Maelstrom of the Skywings whipped me instead. Not a great deal, but since this is still part of the overall Wings of Fire plushie challenge, it's time for my Skywing plushie, Maelstrom. Maelstrom is small, scarcely larger than Queen Scarlet, and not much older than she is. Her mother was a high rank in the Skywing army during the reign of Queen Firestorm, and Maelstrom followed in her mother's talonprints. When Scarlet took over as queen, Maelstrom swore complete loyalty to her, as she respects and follows the queen, no matter how despised they may become by their own subjects. Maelstrom, now a general, was initiated into the Skywing breeding program and was paired by the order of Queen Scarlet to a dragon she wanted nothing to do with after the fact, but for her troubles she had one egg and one daughter, whom she named Avalanche. She raised Avalanche strictly in the fashion of Skywing parents and led her to join the army under her. However, when it was time for Maelstrom's daughter Avalanche to have her own egg, it was set to hatch close enough to the brightest night that Queen Scarlet ordered the eggs destroyed as a measure of certainty that the Dragonettes of Destiny would never be born. General Maelstrom had heard of this plan early, as she was one of the minders who was set to guard Scarlet's new weapon, a dragon named Peril, day and night, and Scarlet had approached both her and her subordinates to begin taking note of and separating eggs due to hatch. At the look on General Maelstrom's face, Scarlet recalled her Grand Dragonette's hatching and forbade her from intervening under penalty of not her death, but Avalanche's. Scarlet revelled in watching Maelstrom and the other guards load the eggs into a cart so that their identity could be confirmed and they could be executed on the following morning. With shaking claws, Maelstrom lowered her own flesh and blood, the egg that was to contain her Dragonette, to its doom, justifying to herself that the egg was a runt anyways and unlikely to survive long past hatching. Maelstrom was then dismissed as the Skywing lawkeeper and hatchery guards, which had been recently doubled, confirmed the imminence of the egg's hatching. Upon arriving back to her home, her daughter Avalanche had already found out about Scarlet's order and their home had been placed under surveillance by guards. Maelstrom begged her daughter not to disobey Scarlet's orders. Avalanche was horrified at her mother's nonchalance and her blind loyalty to the queen. In the end, Maelstrom lost both the egg and her daughter. Avalanche scratched at her mother's face, and in the chaos of their fight she escaped into the night, outflying the guards watching her home and intercepting the egg cart as it was being moved. Avalanche fled to the Talons of Peace with her puny egg, which hatched a few weeks before the brightest night, and she never returned to the Sky Kingdom again. Maelstrom was brought by the Queen's guards and made to watch from the large audience gathered as Scarlet had the other eggs destroyed. It was the first time Maelstrom cried in her life, and not a soul saw it. Afterwards, Scarlet's wrath was swift. But Maelstrom convinced her of her innocence and loyalty, showing the wound on her face, which would leave a grisly scar, as evidence of her attempt to reason with Avalanche. In light of her fighting ability, General Maelstrom kept her rank, and is still altogether loyal to Queen Scarlet and the chain of command. However, she tries to keep out of sight of her. And this experience has given General Maelstrom a soft spot for the unusual and those looked down upon by the rigorous standards of the army. Just like Maelstrom used to be, Queen Scarlet was quick to discard both the eggs and odd skywings she finds not useful. Maelstrom is, in her own way, trying to see the usefulness and worth of every skywing she meets. And she regrets the way she treated her daughter and unborn dragonet, and for this she has paid the price of no longer knowing either. Not that she's missing out on much if you're following along with the canonical character genealogies and know who her grandbaby is. So this has led her to taking many unorthodox skywings under her command. Many with unusual appearances that the Queen does not approve of being seen in the palace, and although her loyalty is unending, it is not unquestioning, and she believes no skywing should be cast aside, as in her mind all troops need to be mobilized, in order to prevent the skywings from being entirely wiped out by Icewings, who she is most suspicious and distrustful of. However, even her heart has grown tired of war and fighting and fire, and wants victory to come swift to the skywings. Despite a thin, tenuous belief in the prophecy, she finds herself hoping against all hope that even Her Majesty Queen Scarlet was wrong, and the Dragonets of Destiny will be real and will end the war. And one day she might see her daughter and grandchild again. It's very deep down, like way deep, under several layers of claws and teeth, and also under a hard carapace of deadly sharp iron armor, which she wears as often as possible. So let's make that! Maelstrom prefers to charge into battle at the lead of her wing, meeting all enemies in the war with talons outstretched and armor at the ready. Before the charge, Maelstrom superheats the very tips of her spiked armor with her fire breath. Not to the point of melting or burning herself, but enough so that when she crashes into her enemy, the spikes sink into them with what she finds to be a very satisfying sizzle of burning flesh. This usually distracts her opponent enough for her to slash their throat, as she prefers to leave no enemy alive and to kill them quickly and efficiently, as can be expected of a dragon with such a glowing personality. Such a dragon is very out of place in times of peace. During the reign of Queen Firestorm, there was constant unrest amongst the skywings, and rebellion to be put down by her and her late mother's claws. Then, during the reign of Scarlet, the War of Sandwing Succession guaranteed a steady supply of terrible enemies Maelstrom could hate and fight with every fibre of her being. But when Ruby is Queen of the Skywings, despite Maelstrom's initial distrust of her for not having killed Queen Scarlet in a royal challenge, after Scarlet is certainly dead, her outlook changes. She realizes Ruby really is queen now, and is going to rule over a time of peace for as long as the future stretches out bright before the Skywing tribe. But Maelstrom is left behind. She has never considered how every moment of her life has been spent fighting, and she won't do it now. She still wears her dragon fighting armor every day and guards the palace, even when she's not requested to. She takes it into her own claws, sometimes appearing to others like a set of ornamental armor in the corner set on a wooden dragon. Every day, Maelstrom becomes more of a relic of a bygone era, majorly successful in battle, feared and renowned, but slowly seeming more and more lost and out of place as her fellow soldiers find peace and pursue their lives without war. Maelstrom is a sharp thorn in a garden that is being tended to grow more flowers. The hatred and loyalty and misery at her daughter's abandonment over 50 years of her life have worn their way into her very being, and her mind is now built of just as much iron as her armor. She is set in her ways, should nothing change them by force, and the force would have to be fairly monumental as she is known for fighting against impossible odds. But perhaps times are changing even for her, and the arrival of a suspiciously familiar dragonet at the Sky Palace 7 years after she lost her grand dragonet, who wants nothing more than to find his place in the world too, may soften her heart. Here's a few words of advice if you yourself are thinking of designing and making some full-body magnetically removable dragon armor. which a few people already have for this very collab video. Ooh, super cool. But perhaps consider your sanity first. Accessories are swag though, so if you wanted to do it anyways, good luck. This plushie is massively heavy now, she's an actual weapon. Definitely do not throw this at your victims/family/friends, but there is someone you can throw it at. And now she's done. It was a bit difficult to make the armor, but totally worth it. Too slow again! Ouch! I think one of your spiky things got me in the tail. This is real dragon-fighting armor, worm. Of course it spiked you. It prevents any miserable Icewings from wrapping their jaws around your arm and taking the whole thing off. Hey, you're not an Icewing yourself, are you? No ma'am. I am a weird-looking Skywing, totally. Really, really weird. The troops are ready for their inspection. Great, present me the first one. This one's Shrike, made by Puddles. Shrike was a devout supporter of Queen Scarlet and served in her army during the War of Sandwing Succession. Shrike is incredibly blunt and cold, and they were happy to cause violence and suffering on behalf of the Skywing Queen. Shrike was frustrated when Ruby took over as queen and almost defected, but remained in the Skywing Kingdom out of loyalty. In that time, they saw their sick and injured friends and family get treatment through Ruby's new healthcare system. It surprised Shrike how happy everyone seemed to be under Ruby's reign. It was so different from how their beloved Queen Scarlet ruled. Shrike's unit was sent to help out the Sandwings rebuild after the war, and was surprised again to see the vibrant culture of the Sandwing Kingdom. Shrike had never considered what life could be like in other kingdoms or how much dragons could benefit from a government that cared for them. They decided to travel to each kingdom to learn about history and speak with the queens about how to meet the needs of all their subjects. After many years of travel and study, Shrike was asked to come teach policy and history at Jade Mountain Academy. Shrike is very happy to pass on their knowledge to the young dragonettes. However, their face wouldn't show it. Shrike is still very intimidating, and though their lectures are fascinating, students are always terrified of being called on in their class. I like a Skywing that can terrify, although policy is always best left to moon-eyed jellyfish-spined Seawings. Next! This is Soot and Condor, created by BeetleMakes.
Soot is a pure Skywing, no matter what anyone says. She was born to 2 Skywing parents, who were born to 2 Skywing parents, and so on. She's this color because of a genetic mutation called melanism. Soot used this strange color to her advantage in the war. She was initially ridiculed, but once she began to fight, everyone realized how powerful her strange scales really were. In battle, other dragons were confused as to what tribe she was, which side she was fighting for. Since Nightwings weren't involved in the war, dragons saw her as non-threatening since they assumed she must be part Nightwing, only for her to attack brutally. Soot was injured badly in battle, causing her to lose a leg. She has a prosthetic now, sponsored by Ruby. Condor is a Skywing who didn't fight. He was one of Scarlet's top strategists. He decided where to invade, how to fight, best positions to fly in. He was incredibly important to the war effort. Once Ruby came to power and the Skywings left the war, he didn't know what to do. He was extremely intelligent, so he didn't just want to do basic labor, but he had no idea what to do with himself. After the war, Ruby initiated a program helping place soldiers in other jobs. Soot told Ruby she'd always had a passion for scrolls and reading, so Ruby created a library for her to run. Condor was lost and confused after the war, not sure what to do, so Ruby had him join Soot in the library, organizing books and managing stock. He realized that this job was really great for him, and eventually he and Soot fell in love.
The librarian one is a miserable snail, but I can always toughen him up. The other, sufficient. A highly effective soldier for the best strategy. Nighttime stealth attacks! I don't think there's going to be any stealth attacks anytime soon. Of course not! I'm utilizing the other best strategy. Scaring your enemy off with loud aggressive noises. Next soldier! This is Alizarin, made by Gar/Mand'Alor.
This is Alizarin, named after the shade of their scales. Although her mother was a blacksmith, when she was young she entered Queen Scarlet's palace guard. Anyone who worked for Scarlet will tell you that was a bad idea, and Alizarin was having a bad time. While she was working for Scarlet, she was often placed in charge of the prisoners, feeding them, bringing them water, making sure they didn't die before they had a chance to die entertainingly in the arena. While she was doing this, she gained a deeper understanding and respect for the other tribes. She often thought about deserting, but she knew her mother would be punished if she fled, and her mother's family with her. Luckily, the new Queen Ruby is much more stable, and Alizarin is happy to remain in their position, and even allowed to have friends from the other tribes. For example, a certain Mudwing painter has been visiting the kingdom recently. For the views. The beautiful, beautiful views.
What a sappy creature! Don't you have anything more violent? This one only wants to contemplate the dismal brown of Mudwing tail. Yes, ma'am. This one is Skystorm and their family, made by CraveCreatures. One of their children is a fire scales. You know how destructive those can be.
Skystorm is slightly smaller in size, but she's a fierce fighter despite her stunted stature. When her husband was wiped out with the rest of their wing in an ambush gone wrong, Skystorm secluded herself from the military after finding out she was with Egg. Because of her small size and never having seen an egg before, she never wondered why her egg was so large. After it hatched to reveal Firescale's twins, Skystorm deserted the military and fled the Sky Kingdom to raise her dragonets in safety away from the war and the Skywings who would have tried to destroy or use her Firescale son Bean. Having a deep distrust towards dragons, Skystorm taught her fireless daughter, Lima, how to fight to defend herself and her brother. All she wants is for her dragonets to be safe and happy. Lima is the fireless twin, but she was born with a fighting spirit and the size of a regular Skywing. She's very protective over her tiny Firescale's brother and trained hard with Skystorm so that she could defend him. Lima grew up very suspicious of other dragons, but especially of other Skywings, so she tends to be abrasive with anyone besides Bean and their mother. She dotes on Bean in every way, but finds his friendly, trusting nature frustrating as well as cute. Her greatest wish is for Bean to live a long, happy life. Bean is a very happy Firescales dragon. Despite his puny size and deadly scales, he is super friendly and has a very positive disposition, much to the distress of his twin sister and their mother. If not for them, Bean would easily be deceived or misused because of his trusting nature. Bean hates the idea of hurting anything, and his greatest desire is to have lots of friends he can hug and play with, but he is also grateful that he can hug his sister, even though she pretends to be grumpy about it.
The stunted little fiery lizard needs some work, although I do like the abrasive one. Next, soldier! This is Tor, made by Racingwolf.
Tor was a soldier in Queen Scarlet's army, but not by choice. He absolutely hated it, as he easily resents authority figures. During one battle, he lost his leg to an Icewing's frost breath. That and other injuries he sustained from that fight led to him being sent back to the Sky Kingdom. After the war, he started training to be a healer, which he found suited him much better, and he is much more content with life now. Tor always had a hard time with authority, but he does follow Queen Ruby as she has earned his respect. He is passionate about his role as a healer, and he has an interest in designing prosthetics for other dragons after one was made for him. He does feel intimidated by how much he has to learn about such things, but he is dedicated to doing it. Maybe if he met a certain Sea-Wing prince, he could learn a thing or two. Tor strongly values freedom and, when he has the time, goes on excursions around Pyria.
A healer, meh. So long as he makes himself useful, I always find them to be daffodil huggers. Yes, of course, ma'am. Our next Skywing is Zircon, much more vicious, made by CappuccinoBear.
Hello everyone, I'm Chino, and this is my entry for the Skywing Army collaboration by Hebby. This is Zircon. He's been a soldier under both Scarlet and Queen Ruby's army. He's been revealed as being quite brutal and vicious during battle, although from his looks you might think that he would look a little odd amongst other Skywings. Instead of being graceful, he's quite bulky, with quite thin legs despite his size. He also has some weird coloration with really rough scales on top of his frame and this brown coloration. Because of that, since he was a dragonet, he's tried showing off to prove that he's just as good as other Skywings. Now that the war is on pause, he's had to look for other things to do. Question the rumors around his mother. Those rumors are true. He is in fact half Mudwing. but he was the only one brought back to Skywing Kingdom. So this is Zircon, my angry boy. It was a pleasure to participate.
And another mudwing lover. So long as he puts those thick brown scales to good use and doesn't waste them skiving off back to a puddle of mud like the rest of the dumb lizards. Next! Now we have Sunstone by Arlo's Dragons. Sunstone is a typical foul-tempered Skywing who served as a soldier in the Sandwing War of Succession. He fought alongside Byrne's allies, though he preferred Blaze, believing she'd cause the least trouble for his tribe. He lost his back leg just days before the war's end and still mutters about the timing of the Dragonets of Destiny. Sunstone disliked Queen Ruby at first, believing she was just too dull, but has since slowly warmed up to her. Now retired, he's married with dragonets of his own and visits the Dragonet Wingery to share old, sweet stories from before the war. Dragonets of Destiny. I'll believe it when I see it. If some little half-baked moonborn runts are going to end the war, it'll be all because of the groundwork us soldiers have left for them to walk all over. Next, soldier! You would know this one. This is Gale, daughter of General Soaring, made by Cinnabunny.
This is Gale. Gale is the wife of Ripple, a sea-wing prince, and the mother of their dragonets, Zephyr and Fire Coral. They all live in Possibility. But before all that, Gale used to be a soldier. She was forced to join the battalion by her mother, General Soaring. Gale never liked being a soldier, and she loathed fighting and being involved in conflict. Due to her opposing views, she's often ridiculed and looked down upon by the other members of the battalion and perceived as weak. Despite this, her mother refuses to let her quit, much to Gale's dismay. One day while on border patrol, she comes across a lost sea wing caught in an old scavenger fishing net. When she went to confront him, Gale was surprised when the sea wing wasn't afraid of her at all, despite literally being a soldier from a rival tribe, and was more curious and excited to meet another dragon for the very first time. The sea wing introduced himself as Ripple, one of the many princes and sons of Queen Coral. Ripple explains that he grew tired of staying in the sea and wanted to go out and explore and maybe collect some treasure on land, despite being told how dangerous it was with the ongoing war. This enlightens Gale, so she decides to help free him from the net. Since that day, the two began visiting in secret. Over time, they developed romantic feelings for one another, and one night they decided to elope to Possibility, where Ripple gives her a matching bracelet, symbolizing their marriage. 5 years after the war's end, Zephyr and Fire Coral are born. Gale enjoys her new peaceful life with her family, and doesn't miss the Sky Kingdom or the dragons there one bit. Gale has a pet beta named Frilly, another gift from Ripple from when they settled into Possibility.
Ah, General Soaring's wayward spawn. I do know a thing or two about that. You can only hope they come to their senses and stagger home sooner rather than later. We have another family next, General Maelstrom, Condor and their family, made by Kristina. Condor is a member of the Skywing Palace Guard. He's the husband of Harrier and the father of his 2 daughters, Caracara and Falconet. Harrier is a medic of Queen Ruby's palace, who has been a member for 6 years. Caracara is the daughter of Condor and Harrier. She is 3 years old and loves cooking with her mom. Falconet is a 5-month-old dragonet who loves drawing pictures for her family and friends. With sufficient training, even that microscopic peanut of a little shrimpy baby will be clawing the eyes from her enemies. Give it 6 months and give me the next soldier. Yes, ma'am, this is RoseQuartz, made by Tommy's Dragons.
This is RoseQuartz. She was named that for her surprisingly big scales. Like most of Scarlet's troops, she only follows out of fear. She is curious about other dragon tribes and likes to pretend to be other types of dragons. Her mother had made her costumes for her to dress up as different dragons and different dragons. She likes to visit the library and read about other tribes. In her studies, she had found out about the Nightwing's connection to the moons. After the Dragons of Destiny left Scarlet's Palace, she followed them at a distance. Moonwings didn't attack her. She was able to pass as a Seawing with pink scales, whom they
Run.
when to the Seawing Sea Kingdom, with the same with the Ice Wings. When they went to the volcano, she put on her Nightwing costume to remain undetected. When she heard about the plan to stop the war, she went to tell Queen Ruby about it. Once the war all was over, she goes exploring and meeting dragons of other tribes.
This one could be useful in my army for sneaking up in cherry blossom groves. A battle is always about the element of surprise. Ow, my ears. Bring in the next one. Now for your immediate subordinate, Hurricane, made by cottonsockss. This is Hurricane. Hurricane is a cranky, large red Skywing who used to be an army officer just below the role of general. During Queen Scarlet's reign, he fought hard to show his loyalty to Scarlet. Fighting off sea wings in particular was his specialty. He was best at finding sea wings in the grass, even though he was severely against wearing camouflage, so that he wouldn't associate himself with rainwings. He tried to become a general, eventually being dropped from the army after he had a fiery outburst, his anger almost causing him to burn down an outpost. Queen Ruby almost banned him from the Sky Kingdom for his anger. However, nowadays he has found peace, enjoying watching the sunset, reading books, playing drums, and drinking tea with his friends. Sometimes, though, he still has his moments. I always liked Hurricane and his go-get-'em attitude. If a few outposts get burned down, so be it. Next! This is Penny, made by Ladybug. Penny is a Skywing war doctor, working mostly with the Mudwing branch of the army. She wanted to be a pediatric doctor, but was forced to find a job in the army. She is officially in charge of caring for refugees, dragonets, and injured dragonet civilians, but often gets pulled away to treat soldiers. One of the dragonets under her care, a Mudwing named Charcoal, has become her unofficial apprentice and takes care of the others when she's gone. I suppose someone has to take care of the mewling brats. I never saw sense in it myself. Bring in the next one. This is Bluff, made by Vibing Things. This is Lieutenant Bluff. Bluff started out as a common foot soldier at the start of the war for Queen Scarlet, but slowly rose up the ranks, even meeting her from time to time. Bluff is a no-nonsense leader, but he makes sure everyone in his troop is well taken care of. At the start of the war, Bluff was loyal to Scarlet. However, towards the latter years of the war, loyalties began to change, and he is now fully loyal to Queen Ruby. Bluff likes to maintain his garden, and enjoys soaring through the cliffs and collecting gemstones in his free time. Always good to see a fellow soldier who rose up the ranks through hard work alone and not nepotism. Next! This is Daybreak, made by Noodles Are Cool. Daybreak is an 11-year-old dragon with dwarfism. As a member of Queen Scarlet's army, he was used to surprise attack the enemy, using his small stature and speed to make quick work of anyone deemed too close to Scarlet. Though, he would much rather be babied, as most dragons assume he's a lost dragonet. See what I said about sneak attacks? Next soldier! This is Twister, made by Ether Kitty.
Twister was born one half of a fire scale twin set, with him being the fireless one. All things considered, he had a happy childhood, got along really well with his brother, and grew up with a strong pride for his tribe. However, he never really felt like he was good enough or equal to his peers because of his lack of fire. So, in an effort to impress his then crush, Twister decided to join the Skywing army to prove he was just as good as everyone else. Unfortunately for him, being in the army without fire was not as easy as he thought. He found himself spending a lot of time in the medic area, with many wounds and consequences of not being able to fight back as well as his peers. He grew to like the staff that he spent a lot of time with, and started to notice that they were very understaffed, with not a lot of dragons pursuing the medical field, preferring to fight the war with brute strength. After one particularly bad injury, Twister decided he wanted to join the medics. After joining the medics, he meets Finch, another Skywing who had been spending a lot of time in the medic area recovering from various injuries. The two hit it off well, they become friends, and eventually, they even become partners. Twister is happy with his life, and after the war, he settles down with Finch, and they adopt a rain-winged dragonet together. And that's Twister.
Well, for a fireless runt, he can certainly fly. There's always a use for another set of talons, even if it is just cradling scraped claws and not killing Her Majestic Orangeness Queen Scarlet's enemies. Next! Yes, ma'am, this is Eagle and Elk, made by the Starving Child.
Eagle was the golden child in his parents' eyes. He could do no wrong. He loved his parents with his whole heart until his younger sister, Elk, hatched. When she hatched, Eagle thought his parents would love her as much as he did, but when they discovered she was blind and had a deformed wing, they started to neglect her. So one day, Eagle took Elk to Queen Scarlet and asked her to show his parents how beautiful Elk was. Scarlet, being Scarlet, ordered her guards to execute Elk. Eagle stopped them with his amazing fighting skills, and Scarlet decided that if Eagle fought for her in the war, she would let Elk live. When Eagle was on the front lines, he often saw a young Icewing running back and forth across Pyrea. The Icewing delivered many letters to his squadmates, and Eagle took this chance to talk to the Icewing as much as possible. Once the war ended, Eagle and the Icewing lost touch. After the war, Ruby sent Elk to Jade Academy, where she met an Icewing dragonet her age. They became fast friends, and the Icewing, named Caribou, encouraged others to wear bells on them so that Elk could hear where they are. She also became friends with a Rainwing named Tamarin and a Seawing named Anemone. During Family Day at Jade Academy, Elk brought Eagle to meet Caribou and her older brother Snowstorm. Eagle, coming face to face with his long-lost lover, was overjoyed, and Elk heard him cry for the very first time. Snowstorm and Eagle still don't see each other very often, but they stay in contact by letter, and they spend as much time as they can together by visiting their sisters at Jade Mountain Academy.
Soldiers always fight better when they have something precious to them. That's why I always withhold dessert until after the enemy is cut into 30 pieces. Next! Well, this is Berg, who you'd already know, made by Spaceman Spiff 180. This is Berg. He was a foot soldier in the Skywing army, more loyal to General Maelstrom than to Queen Scarlet. When the War of Sandwing Succession began and Byrne joined forces with Scarlet, Berg's platoon ended up working with a Sandwing platoon during patrols and battles. This is where Berg met Meerkat, a Sandwing soldier, and they fell in love. They knew Byrne and Scarlet would never allow them to be together, so they deserted and ran away to the town of Possibility. Berg ended up becoming a teacher, and Meerkat became a gardener. They eventually had a dragonet named Dusk, and when he isn't spoiling Meerkat or playing with Dusk, Berg spends his time studying and collecting bugs. He's fascinated with insects, particularly beetles. So that's what Berg has been up to lately. Can't say I approve of his recent choices. When he disappeared, everyone took bets on whether or not he married a sand-snorting desert dweller or the sad, sappy mudwing. Bleh. Next, soldier! This is Robin, made by Ghostbug. This is Robin of the Skywings. She was born during the War of Sandwing Succession. After her parents had many issues incubating the eggs of her litter, she ended up as the only survivor. Robin was born male and was determined to make her parents proud and prove her masculinity to herself and to the world. She lied and joined the war at 6.5 instead of 7. Robin very quickly realized the army wasn't for her, but stayed out of fear. She managed to befriend an old cook named Sundown. They would talk for as long as they could and became close friends. These talks helped Robin realize she was trans. Then one day, Sundown was seriously injured after going too far foraging and setting off an old trap. Her friend had to be sent home permanently. With no one and nothing to prove to herself anymore, Robin snuck away in the night and left to live in the mountains of the Sky Kingdom. After the war, she returned home and found Sundown again. The two set up a farm on the edge of the Sky and Sand Kingdoms, near Possibility, and live there to this day. Farming instead of fighting. I'll never understand some of these deserters and their backwards priorities. Next, soldier. This is Darkfire, made by Bright.
This is Darkflame. Darkflame is a Nightwing Skywing hybrid who was cherished from the moment he was born. Unfortunately, his legs were later cut off because they were glow in the dark. He went around trying to find blazes and blisters dens, but never succeeded. He now lives in the Wayne Forest, and no dragons have ever seen him. But he's very happy and keeps his white red side very hidden, and he's quite happy and only has been spotted a few times.
If only he had found those secret lairs. Next is Tradewind, made by Shrimp. This is Tradewind. He is a Skywing blacksmith who specialized in weaponsmithing during the War of Sandwing Succession. He was hatched in the year 4989 after Scorching, placing him in his early 20s by the time the war ended. He was most well known for his creative weapon designs and gained a lot of renown when Scarlet acknowledged one of them. Sadly, he was not able to enjoy the end of the war, as he was kidnapped by Blister's Sandwings, who posed as Burns' forces about 10 months before the events of the Brightest Night. During his time in captivity, he would try his best to toe the line of helping his captors and being completely useless to them as much as possible, allowing him to get away unscathed whilst giving them as little as he could. After Blister's death, his captors decided to stay underground and try to undermine Thorn, becoming a criminal organization that moved from town to town. This would go on for another 4 months, when he was eventually freed by a joint effort from Ruby and Thorn's soldiers, who raided the hideout, which was at the time located in Possibility. With no more wars and the fear that continuing his crafts in weapons would lead to more trouble, he decided to try and expand his craft in metalworking. He eventually settled with complex toys, as it proved to be the most satisfying for him. But he is currently busy with his work, that being tools, props, and other objects for the upcoming Clash of Claws tournament Ruby is trying to start up again. The army's ready. Target is heading west. Fire a warning shot. And when I say warning shot, I mean blow his tail off. Are you sure about this, General Maelstrom? It's an untested weapon. Fire! If you say so. Deploy all units. This isn't enough firepower. Thank you to all the Whirlpool haters out there for providing this firepower. Phoenix Fire, Ninja Kitty Awakens, the Wait Zaranek Fluffle, Bird Yeggling, Danielle Oliver, and that Dragon Toon Fuzz. Decent shot. Almost sufficient enough for praise, but still just decent. Thank you for watching to my beloved viewers, and thank you for participating in this collaboration to my equally beloved fellow artists. Each one of you has done an admirable and amazing job. Please consider following the artists on their social medias. Their Instagrams and even YouTube accounts in some cases are linked in the description. And a shout out to my Patreon members. Kimber, ADH Dream 1409, Kit, Mono Deer, Anicola Mason, Grey, Phoenix Fire, I Like the Dumb Bunny Shrimp, Fennec is here, Poppy Willow, Indigo, Woilies, Fantasy, The Starving Child, Ninja Kitty Awakens, Caroline T, I Love My Fuzzy Kitten, Vanessa Ananara Burrows, Verla, Rhythm the Raptor, Aliana, Miffy, Victoria Toucan, Racingwolf, Greymalkin, Gatto Catamoose, The Wait Zaranek Fluffle, Anonymous Running Dragon, Danger Noodles Are Cool, Aaron Donahue, Carol, Silly Rabbit 87, The Fairest Rubber Duck, Celeste Tazza, Gordon Young, Stufftails Fursuits, Connie, Nix, Hazel Williams, Keegan Evans, Quinn, Crafty 6809, Alex Allen, The Christmas Lady, Acariel, Bird Yeggling, The Creatures Burrow, Danielle Oliver, Kayla Hedrick, Audrina Bailey, Meshtail, Salami, Moth, Danny, Catbrain, Lots of Pizza, Elena Spivey, Sandra, Tea Party, Aspen, Cozy Wozy, Nika Fadowsi, What's My Name, Mihir, Tommy, Copa, Archeron, Beef Stew, That Dragon Toon Fuzz, and Sabertooth.